And of course, as we know, Darwin's theory is one of the most widely accepted theories of evolution. It was a major breakthrough in the field of evolutionary biology. And around the same time, you also know that around the same time, Alfred Russel Wallace, who was working in the Malay archipelago, is said to have arrived at similar conclusions as Darwin. But another important thing you need to know is Darwin actually drew inspiration out of an essay written by Thomas R. Malthus. It was actually an essay on population. Okay, so the name of the essay was simply titled An Essay on the Principles of Population, which Darwin drew inspiration out of. And you all must remember the name of the book that Darwin published, Darwin's work, that is On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. What are some of the features of Darwin's theory of natural selection? He said that any organism, if given the ideal set of conditions, can produce maximum number of organisms, maximum number of offsprings, and that is what is referred to as overproduction. Okay, and although such high numbers are not attained, why such high numbers are not attained? Because natural resources are limited. There's limitations in food and space, and obviously when there is limitation in food and space, what is going to happen? We are going to start fighting with each other. There is going to be a constant struggle can exist between members of between members of the same species, that is intra-specific struggle, or it can be between members of two different species, like in the case of interspecific struggle, or it may be the struggle against the inanimate world, that is the outside physical world, that is the environmental struggle. So imagine the organisms have to go through so much struggle. So ultimately there's a lot of competition within the members of the same species or between the members belonging to two different species, and ultimately we need to cope with the changes happening in our surrounding environment. So we already have built-in variation. They don't appear out of nowhere. We already have built-in variation that are a part and parcel of our genetic makeup, and some of us end up winning the struggle, and these winners who win the struggle are said to be the fitter organism, and these are the ones who win the struggle, and they are the ones who survive and they populate this planet, whereas the ones who could not cope with the struggle, they get eliminated. And we say that the winners or the fitter ones had, by chance, fortunately, they had a type of variation in them which we can call as beneficial variation, or we can also refer to it as useful variation. So by chance they ended up having beneficial or useful variation, and that is what allowed them to cope with the struggle. They emerged as winners and they became known as the fitter organisms. And these fitter organisms, the same cycle repeats, and the same screening process, the natural selection, because who is selecting for the fitter ones here? It's mostly the natural forces which is selecting the fitter ones. And over the years, as natural selection keeps acting, eventually the population or the group of organisms will become so distinct than what it was once upon a time that it can be qualified to be called as a new species.